Well, we are in unfamiliar territory for the last couple of years, unfamiliar territory for this show, especially where every week now for the rest of the season, the Lions not only need to win, but we also are just relentlessly scoreboard watching around the rest of the NFL. But for another week, the Lions are still alive after beating the Cowboys last Thursday. Welcome in, everyone, to the Payne and Drain show. My name is Zach Payne. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Alex Drain. And Alex, I guess to start with the Lions game against the Cowboys and not getting into how the rest of the playoff picture is shaping up, how did we feel about that as a bounce back effort after Thanksgiving?
It was good overall. I think as a whole, all of the things we wanted to see, we saw in this game. Amon-Ra came back, which was nice, and then they're on the defensive side, which was the focus coming out of Green Bay. You get sacks. First time we'd seen that in a little while,
Yeah.
particularly Al-Qadin Muhammad, who'd been kind of invisible since the bye week. He's back, and he had three in this game, right?
Yes,
Nope,
he did.
three. And then you get three turnovers as well, including the cherry on top there at the end. So we've been talking last week about not enough havoc from this defense, not enough sacks, not enough takeaways. It was back. And the defensive line, which was the real disappointment in the Green Bay game, had a nice bounce back. They got some pressure, thought the run defense was pretty good. So as a whole, we saw what you wanted to see. A little unfortunate with the branch situation, but we'll get into it on the defensive side. Avonte Maddox played really well in his place, so that's at least something to look forward to. As a whole, it was pretty satisfying. And then the Lions got some help from Green Bay on Sunday, so playoff odds are still not like great, but there's a really clear path here now. If you go 3-1 with the win over the Bears, you're probably in the playoffs. I think the Athletic has it at 95%. So that path is now opened back up pretty clearly, and that was the objective of the week.
Yep. And at this point, all eyes like it's all about setting up that week 18 game against the Bears to be for everything. And a couple of things have to happen, but that is definitely the most realistic path for the Lions at this point. But as you mentioned there, Brian Branch out for the year with a torn Achilles. He will likely miss the start of next year as well with that injury. This is a tricky one because the Achilles injuries are very difficult to come back from in general. And for a guy like Branch, who already wasn't the most athletic in the world, this is a potentially career-altering move. And with him being a due for an extension this offseason, how do you see this impacting his future with the Lions? Not that it's in doubt that he'll be back next year, but more so in terms of how long of a contract extension he might get, the money he might get, and what his outlook is for the rest of his career with after a devastating injury.
Yeah, it's a big bummer, especially this player that we've been talking about quite a bit hadn't been playing up to the original standard he'd established in his first 24 or so games as an NFLer. And there's been flashes this year, but it definitely raises a lot of questions about what his future is in Detroit, what his future is in the NFL. I mean, he was already the extension certainty had gone down a bit with his play this year. Now you have this thrown in, which will eat up probably a good chunk of his contract year. And it's now a really uncertain situation. I think from an optimistic standpoint of the Lions this season, you're if you believe the metrics like DVOA, the Lions are still a very elite team. And that was with Brian Branch not being okay, but not a world beater by any stretch. And again, if my Maddox played like he did in this game, I think they'll be okay. I don't know if that's replicable, but he did show us something, and he's a guy who's played some good football in the past. So I don't think this is like losing Hutchinson last year. Like Branch is a useful player. He hasn't been that degree of impactful. It just sucks for him more than anything else.
Yeah, and obviously Maddox is going to be a big part of this team going forward. And if Kirby Joseph is able to come back, that will be very big as well for this team. It's also worth noting Thomas Harper left this game with a concussion, so monitoring his status this week is going to be very interesting. The Lions are running out of safeties, which is never a good sign, but it kind of is what it is. Hopefully, Kirby can come back at some point in the next couple of weeks here down the stretch. We did get good news on him, at least, that it's not going to be a career-altering injury. They will just have like some sort of cleanup procedure in the offseason, and it shouldn't affect him next year. But for this year specifically, he might be playing hurt, playing less than 100%. We'll just have to see if he comes back at all at this point. So getting into the game itself, starting on the offensive side of the ball, this was a bit of a weird game for the running backs because they scored a ton of touchdowns. Jahmyr Gibbs, three more on the ground. He ties Barry Sanders for the most touchdowns scored by anyone before turning 24 with 47 in 45 career games for Gibbs, I believe. Absolutely absurd production. David Montgomery also has a nice breakaway run for a touchdown. However, the success of the ground game was largely inconsistent in this one as the Cowboys front, I'll give them credit. The reports of the Cowboys defense being better might have been exaggerated, but that run defense was better than I expected it to be.
Yeah, after the game, I saw a headline in my CBS Sports app that was like, Gibbs powers Lions to win, and I was like, I didn't think he was that good. Like, I mean, okay, I didn't think he was that good. And then you look at the stats, you're like, okay, he had three touchdowns, had some receiving yards early in the game, especially that first drive. So you can kind of see it. I think part of it is Gibbs has become a really first-rate star in this league.
Oh
A
yeah.
guy, I would say his name recognition is now probably the third highest on the team, behind Hutchinson and Goff, maybe. Right up there, certainly. Amon-Ra's pretty high in name recognition, but definitely
Sewell in
near the
terms of
top.
positional, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. But people don't know offensive linemen as much because
Yeah.
they're not in fantasy, and Gibbs is. So that's a big part of it. Um, but yeah, I thought Gibbs was pretty solid, and I thought Montgomery obviously has the great touchdown run. They didn't get a ton of running room, but like what they took advantage of what they did well. Like what they got, they did well with. And as a whole, the offense was pretty much unstopped in this game. Like they punt, they punt two times in this game, and one of them was on a controversial play where it should have been maybe a free play, maybe it's certainly a DPI. It didn't get thrown. That is what it is. Point is, they really weren't stopped much. They were getting points drive after drive, and okay, Cowboys did a good job stopping the run. They didn't stop the pass whatsoever in this game. So I think you'll take that trade off. You're not going to have 10 yards per play on both running and passing. If they take away the run, you hit them with the pass, and that's what they did in this game.
Yep, it was absolutely fantastic from the passing game. There was one hiccup where on the first drive, they had a drive ender in the red zone with a James Houston, former Lion, getting a sack on Penei Sewell, which don't like to see Sewell.
That was the free space on the bingo card for this game.
Yeah.
Like we knew that was coming.
I'll be honest, as soon as he got a sack on the first drive, though, I kind of was like, uh-oh, because this is the first drive and he already got it. Is he gonna have three, four? Like, is he gonna have a career
Well,
day
so
here?
that's one of the stories of this game. Those first two drives, like it really looked like uh-oh in terms of the pass pro. Like they were calling a lot of screens, a lot of check downs. The true dropbacks they had those first couple drives, it did not look like they were going to be able to pass protect at all in this game. And then the rest of the game was pretty solid. Like there were a few issues here and there, and Goff did well under pressure in this one, but they shored that up after kind of being under siege those first two possessions, which was huge.
And part of that is due to the fact that after, I believe it was the second or third drive, Tristan Colin gets swapped out at left guard for rookie Miles Frazier. And then Colin comes back in the game later, but then Frazier comes
Yeah,
back in the game. The guard rotation's back.
I will say on rewatch, Frazier had some issues in this. He was not a star by any stretch there. But what happened was Goff was getting him out. So there was a couple where I watched where Goff gets it out just before being cranked, and it was Frazier giving that up. So he's in his first NFL game, right? Those were his first snaps. Like,
Yep. And he was for your first NFL game after basically missing all of training camp and most of the
right.
season, so not a lot of practice, and you weren't practicing with the ones all week because you didn't start, and so you come in mid game and those are your first snaps. Like it's understandable why he might have been a little out of his depth, but the Lions seemed to be impressed with Frazier's game. I think he was perfectly acceptable for what he is considering the context. It sounds like we might be getting more of him down the stretch here, but Christian Mahogany is also potentially working his way back, so that's obviously he'll be the starting left guard when he is back. It does see like Cole. I will say Colin when he came back in the game later was much better, especially as a run blocker. He had the one really nice pull on one of the Gibbs touchdowns. So whoever they want to use, I think we kind of have to accept it'll just be so-so, but it's nice to
Yeah,
see Frazier.
And it was a good Ratledge game, in my opinion. Like I thought he was good on the ground. Him and in Sewell, obviously the right side of the engine in this game. All their touchdowns are on to the right side. Didn't notice a lot of pass pro issues from Ratledge, so shout out to him. It tended to be the tackles a little wobbly at points, and then the left guard situation were the issues.
Yep. But on the whole, the second half of the game, the pass protection was much better, and the play action was working a lot better in the second half as well. Goff was dealing 25 of 34 for 309 in this one, and the one touchdown pass to Isaac Tesla, who gets his fourth of the season. Tesla, I'm pretty sure, has four touchdowns on eight catches, which is hilarious production. But yeah, Jahmyr Gibbs getting after it as a receiver, 7 for 77, broke Deron Bland's ankles on one of those plays too. Good. What did you make of Gibbs being split out wide more in this game?
I'm all for it. Like
Yeah.
like it works. I mean, they did the Texas route outside the red zone again. Yeah, on that the 2 minute drill they were on their own side of the 50 when they did that one. Gibbs had two different plays in this game where his stop on the dime ability was just
Oh,
remarkable. Where there was one in the open field and then there was one on the sideline, and both of them were just incredible plays. Um, the body control, the balance, all that stuff to go from how fast he can be to then stop like that. It's definitely something. And I also want to say when you mentioned the slot touchdown, that was a dime from Goff,
hmm.
perfectly layered ball right over the corner, right, dead on bullseye shot. So shout out to him. That might have been his best throw in the game.
And great concept too with Gibbs lining up out wide, far right side, sprinting into the backfield and then sprinting into the flat, drawing the eyes of the two DBs, and they get them to freeze for just a second. That allows Tesla to run from the slot, little out and up route. Great by the lines there. Amon-Ra, as you mentioned, was playing in this game. We didn't expect him to play, but he showed up 6 for 92. Normal production from him. There was a weird miscommunication with JMO. Like they kind of both ran the same route on a play where it's not a drop, but Amon-Ra was caught off guard by the ball because he was busy figuring out what the route was. That was the one hiccup, but he was good in
Yeah,
this
that
one.
was that was a weird play. I think one of the biggest stories though of this game is JMO starting to look more like
Mhm.
a guy that you're going to as a safety valve, which has been, Amon-Ra's role for so long. And with Laporta out of the picture, like they got to start, someone's got to pick up some slack. And they didn't. I mean, the play of the game, first of all, is a 3rd and 6 crosser to JMO. After the Cowboys had cut it to 30 to 27, Lions around midfield. They're on third down, and I think there was a roughing the passer on that play too. So in
Yep.
theory, if he had dropped it, it would have been a first down. But the fact that he catches it, he runs a long ways. They get the extra, the personal foul that brings him up even further. That was the moment of the game. If that play doesn't work, then there's no penalty. They punt. Cowboys very easily could have won this game. Instead, it flips around. They score a touchdown, and the Cowboys never get closer than two scores. So huge for JMO there. But just the plays where he converts a 2nd and 17 in this game. He
Yep.
has just a few catches for 10, 12 yards that just establish the down to down consistency. And now you have the Green Bay game. You stack this one on top. If we can get a couple more going, and the golf chemistry might finally be there. We want to see the deep shots with him, but those intermediate throws are really important too, and it's the volume of targets that's what I'm watching.
Yep, 14 catches for Williams in the last 2 weeks. He had 96 yards in this one. They did try. I found it funny because I was watching this game and I was like, please just throw up deep shot to JMO. He's cooking Bland off the line. Anytime they press him, just take a shot. And then the one shot Goff actually took was into double coverage, and it was like the worst throw he could have possibly. It was like, why? What are we doing here? I respected them actually throwing it past 20 yards, but that was not the play. I want to see JMO on some of these deep shots. I want to see Tesla get a deep shot. There was one actually that Tesla had. It was a holding on Ratledge, I believe. So it wouldn't have counted anyways, and Tesla didn't get the feed in. But it was like 40 yards downfield to the end zone. I was like, wow, they actually threw it downfield to the end zone. That's lovely. And I want to see more of it. Williams, after that horrible start to the year under Johnny Morton, he's now on pace for a career high. He's on pace for like 1,050 yards, I believe. He's starting to look a lot more like the player that we saw for most of last year. And yeah, keep it up.
Yeah, he must have forgot that there's a roof on Ford Field too, because he was all bundled up walking from his car to the stadium, It was a very cold night on Thursday, and then they just kept wearing it and they had the whole full face covering indoors. That's a look. I kind of
I
like
was
it.
I was gonna say, is that a just pure cosmetic thing for him? Because we've seen it before. We saw it in the Philly game where he had the face mask on, but
If he wears that next week in SoFi and then goes off, then it's just got to be a thing. Like at that point, that's his look.
we got it. We've remember we had the CJ Gardner Johnson the ski masks. What about like we just have balaclava JMO rocking out there? That's the new mythical fighter. So good to see from Williams. And then I do just want to mention this play. Actually, I should say on JMO one last thing for him. How did he manage not to score that end around? I don't know. That was shout out to Amon with some great blocking on there, but that was impressive that JMO managed to screw that up. But the one play I did want to mention that I never want to see again. What was Malik Cunningham doing in this game? No. Yeah. I got no words, man.
I was sitting there and I was looking at him just like, who the hell is that? What are they
I was like,
doing?
who's 80?
Yeah, what?
I
Was
didn't
this the
even
game
know he
that
was
they
elevated.
was this the game they did the Dan Skipper play too? Or was that the
Oh yeah,
previous
the wide
game?
receiver
We have
screen.
Yeah, so what was so we have to talk about that play because Skipper's lined out wide with no corner there, and then they motion him in and he drops the pass. But why did if he's out there with no one there, just throw him the ball? Why did you motion him in so that defenders can get to him quicker? Like it just
I don't know, but I love that Dan Campbell loves Dan Skipper so much. It's the funniest thing. I'm not
the
gonna
best
lie,
part
when I
about
saw
it is that it's still supplying those memes around the league of like whenever a receiver's bad, it's just the like
POV,
AJ Brown today, and it's just
yeah,
a picture of Dan Skipper out wide.
nothing will top Dan Skipper running a route like 5 yards downfield in Dallas last year, but we're like we got to get we got the Dan Skipper touchdown against the Bills last year. We got to get some more Dan Skipper action. I'm not gonna lie, when I saw him motion in and they threw it to him, I was so ready for him to catch it and lateral it to Sewell because I felt like we were due for a Penei Sewell touch. But I don't know. I just love the offensive line love. I actually I will say this a few weeks ago, but when Tristan Wirfs caught a touchdown for the Bucks, I was like, how did Wirfs get a touchdown before Sewell? That is just a crime. I'm ready for a Penei Sewell. I need a Penei Sewell touchdown so badly at some point in the next few years here.
Well, we got the Decker two pointer that got taken off the board, right? Because that was the
Yeah, the
people
Cowboys.
remember it because of the Skipper aspect, but the play wasn't to Skipper; it was to Decker. So
Yeah. Yeah, and I know Sewell's had a catch before against the Vikings way back when, and he actually almost scored a touchdown in that Cowboys game last year on the hook and ladder. But
Yep.
yeah, go offensive lineman. Aside from that, is there anything else that you want to mention on offense here?
No, I mean it was just a really good offensive game against a defense that isn't very good, but has been playing better as of late. So this is a nice performance, and then they're going to have their work cut out for them this week.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. On to the defense. We mentioned Al-Qadim Muhammad with 3 sacks. He looked fantastic in this game. I do want to mention this though. Aiden Hutchinson had a whole bunch of pressures. But Aiden Hutchinson has really struggled to finish plays as of late. And I don't like, there's the one where he has Dak like fully wrapped up in the backfield, and somehow Dak gets out and turns that into a 1 yard gain. Hutch got to finish some plays, man.
Yeah, that's kind of disappointing, but at least Muhammad was finishing them. He was
Yep.
good in that aspect in this game. So yeah, it's been an issue for Hutchinson going back a little ways where he comes around the edge just really out of control and grabs him and then just kind of goes flying off the quarterback. So something to keep an eye on. But the pass rush really did set the tone. They got some interior rush here and there too, but it was really those two guys around the tackles, and it sped Dak up at points. And I thought, as a whole, you step back from this game, and people are saying, "Yeah, okay, defensive performance." And yeah, it's 30 points. They did give up a good number of yards, but what I liked was there was resistance. The Cowboys
Mhm.
get to 30 points because they kicked what 3 field goals in this game, 3 or 4 field goal, four field.
Five.
I have 4 written here. Would it be
I'm looking at this. The stat sheet says 5 for Aubrey with
five?
one extra
Jeez,
point.
I must
Yep.
have missed one there. Okay. Well, and two of them, three of them were 50 plus. That's right, right? It
And
was a
one was
29,
63.
42, 63. Yeah, 50. Yeah, yeah. So five field goals, and one of them is 63. The 55 yarder is like, or no, it was the 42 yarder is like tucked in the upright, like
Mm.
just barely. They were also 2 of 2 on fourth down in this game. Like the Cowboys got to that, 30-point threshold, but they did it by really having to work in this game for it. And I thought the Lions, like the only one, DJ Reed was getting cooked a bit by CeeDee Lamb. Robertson cooked a little bit, but the tackling was the bigger issue with him. But otherwise, outside of that, the
It was the
only
long touchdown for that Amit gave up when he jumped on a double route. That was the one that got me. But
Yep. So there was a few issues with the corners, but otherwise the run defense was good. Anything to the tight ends, they really had to work for. I thought like Anzalone got, but like he was right there on a lot of those. They made some tough catches, like that one 4th and 5 inside the 10. Rock Yassin plays really good coverage, and they just pick it up. Like sometimes you tip your cap, and it's one thing if you're playing, the Atlanta Falcons, and this is what's going on. But this Dallas offense has been top 2, top 3 in the league the whole season. So to me, it was a fine performance. You made a really good offense work, and they had to scratch and claw for every point they got, and it still wasn't enough.
yeah, now we do have a couple things that we have to go over. One, you mentioned Anzalone there, who was involved in one of the weirdest pass interference calls I've seen lately, where Jake Ferguson grabs the jersey and kind of pulls him to the side, which is a play we've seen tight ends and receivers do a million times over the last few years. And then Anzalone, because he gets thrown out of position, grabs the hips and impedes him, but they call it offensive pass interference. It's declined anyways because the Lions, it worked out better for the Lions, but very interesting play. What was your take on that?
I was surprised that was OPI. Like when I watched it the first time, I was like, "Oh, that's DPI, right?" And then I was like, "Well, maybe it should just not be a penalty." But I did not see OPI coming. Like usually, you have to go out of your way to smoke the defender to get called for an OPI with the way the rules are in this league, and instead, they're able to get the call without, you know, without it being too severe. I don't know what the real reason was. I know that those two guys were battling a lot of this game. Maybe the referees picked up on something over previous snaps and they're looking to crack down on it. But it was surprising, and it was a welcome surprise, though. It really did help the Lions in a crucial portion of the game towards the end.
And then the Cowboys pick up a different offensive pass interference from George Pickens in this game. I'm pretty sure
That
the
one was more
Lions,
obvious.
yeah, I'm pretty sure the Lions defense has drawn more pass interference calls in favor of Detroit than the offense has at this point of the season, which is hilarious to think about. We also had a very weird moment where Jack Campbell, who is continuing his fantastic season, comes in on the blitz, gets a sack for a safety, except not. It was upon review, they overturned the call on the field. Now, initially, the first replay they showed that wasn't in line with the end zone. It looked like it was still in the end zone. It was a little controversial. They showed the end zone feed. It looked a little more definitive that it was out of the end zone, but
I was still surprised it was an overturn, honestly. Like I thought there were going to be enough. I will say NFL at least is a little more brave, which I prefer with replay officials. Like the MLB is so cowardly, where it's just like, oh, if one idiot could make a mildly convincing argument and 99 people disagree, well, therefore it's not conclusive. So right, like it's so bad in the MLB. Whereas NFL they're a little more direct, which I like, but I still wondered if this was going to be an overturn. They didn't do a good job. The Prime broadcast did in terms of showing us the actual replays that mattered. Like it took a couple to actually show the one that we were supposed to be seeing. Yeah, in the end, it was probably not a safety. I hate the rule in general. I wish there were more safeties in football. I think they're fun plays. I think they should be easier to achieve. But the way the rules are, they do everything in their power to make sure safeties aren't called, and it's a bummer. But the Lions shook it off.
yep.
They get the stop anyway. They get good field position off the punt, backed up in the end zone, and they get points. So in the end, it didn't really matter. But at the time, it was definitely the crowd was riled up there, which you expect.
Oh yeah.
But I do think they probably were correct on this one, the
Yeah.
referees at least.
Yeah. Should mention Campbell also had a forced fumble in this
Yep.
game. So, I mean, that dude's just been absolutely spectacular. DJ Reed gets the interception at the end on a weird kind of bobble play, but then I also got a shout out. We had another Dan Campbell psychic moment coming out of halftime. So, for those of you who recall last year in Houston, when Goff was just turning it over every second play, coming out of halftime, Campbell said in the coach's interview that they do, he was like, "We got to get a takeaway." And the first snap, as they cut, because they play it on a delay when the game is starting in the second half, and as he's saying that, Carlton Davis lays out for an interception. And to start the second half here, Dan Campbell again says, "We need to get another takeaway or two." And the first play, Amik Robertson deflects the ball up, and my boy Derek Barnes gets his first regular season interception. His only other interception, of course, being the divisional round against the Bucks to seal that one. And that was just awesome to see. Good for Derek Barnes. Good to see him get a coverage moment after whatever happened against the Giants a few weeks ago that we do not talk about. So yeah, good for him.
Yeah, a huge swing in the game at that point. The Lions get the field goal right at the end of the half, and then they come right out, get the turnover, get the quick to slot touchdown. I mean, that was suddenly it went from a game that was tight to like a blowout. And then
Yep.
the Cowboys worked to whittle it back down, then they pulled away. But overall, again, three turnovers after one in the prior 2, 3 games. So just a big change of pace, especially when it's two interceptions off Dak Prescott. Like
Yep.
previously, we were sitting at one being an interception off Jameis Winston, which uh, that should be a half that should be a half turnover.
Yeah, the asterisk for this is a gimme. And then
Yeah,
5 sacks. I will say, I remember looking at the box score after the game, and I was like, 5 sacks? I know Muhammad had three. I know Campbell had one. Where did the fifth one come from? And they actually gave Ali McNeil a sack on the play where Dak Prescott just threw the ball backwards,
oh yeah, the
which
lateral.
which is hilarious. That's Aleem's first sack of the year, and it's a play that he like barely touched Dak. But hey, we take gimmies here.
Yeah, gets credit for it. So it was, yeah, this was a good performance, a good bounce back against a really good team, and got a really good offense coming up this week. So see if they can keep it going. Go from there.
As for the special teams, Tom Kennedy, the best returner on the team,
I
who
mean, yeah, we've been watching this all year. They've had nothing going on all season, and now
out
it's
of
popping.
nowhere, Tom Kennedy, 3 returns for 120 yards, averaging 40 yards a return.
Yeah, they were
I
consistent. He got to the 47, the 41, and the 49 on his three returns.
Unbelievable. And of all people, Tom Kennedy, who's not known for his explosiveness, but I guess he did the one thing that no other returner for the Lions has done this season. He ran forward. Everyone else has been so obsessed with running laterally and trying to make guys miss, but Tom Kennedy's like, you know what? What if I just follow my blocks and run straight? And hey, it worked out. So good for him. Sailors in this one. Once
Not as
again,
good.
not good. One, not as good. He actually, I want to see this on the season. Can I pull up his return stats? I'd have to pull up ESPN. Regardless, he's averaging like 25 yards a return. Why
I
is he
can't
still
imagine he'd
here?
gotten. I can't imagine he'd gotten to the 40 at any point this year. I don't. I mean, I don't remember one where he got to the 40.
I think maybe once the entire
Maybe yeah,
season.
one time. So
I'm pretty
Kennedy's
sure
got
it
to be
could.
the guy moving forward, no question.
Well, the problem is they have to have two, and so teams are going to
Of
target
course.
sailors.
Yeah.
But when Khalif Raymond is like back and at full capacity, he should be the other guy. Or put again, what is the point of Sione Vaki if he's not going to be returning like I get that he's good at being a blocker and on special he's a core special teamer. But man, he's got juice. Why not use him?
Yeah. No
It's
question about
bizarre.
it.
It's bizarre.
Otherwise, I had Fox 2 punts. One pins at the 9, then you get the penalty that makes it the 5. That sets up the near safety. Other one, not as good. Only 42 yards to the 21. Jake Bates got run over on a kickoff. He did not get a concussion, I guess, because he came back. And overall was good when he wasn't blocked. That was not good. 52-yarder. That was the only special teams incident in this game, and the other special team stuff was pretty good. So I don't want to come down too hard on it, but it's too much of an issue right now. You can't have kicks, especially the 50-yarders, because where that
Yeah.
is on the field is going to convey great field position. And that, I mean, that lost them the Minnesota game, just being
Y-
frank here. Like,
Yeah, you can't have block kicks ever, period. And
yeah.
I I find it funny. Like, I don't want to come down on the special teams too hard because there's only one thing. Man, I long for the days where we never had special teams things to talk about. Can we just have a normal special teams week where nothing notable happens? Like, and the
Yeah,
returns are just like it's crazy.
we have to get the sign of days since a special teams incident.
It's always going to be at zero.
Yeah.
Uh, so that's aside from that, game theory stuff. What do you got for that?
Not much. They had a 4th and 5 at the Dallas 34 that they kicked on. That was the blocked kick. 6 minutes to go in the third quarter, up 27-16.
Yeah,
Eh.
you're up two
That's like a
scores.
it's like a 50-50. The field goal doesn't do a ton for you, but they've also been flopping in fourth downs recently, so kind of in the middle on that one. Otherwise, they did not attempt a fourth down at any other point, and their other two field goal kicks were on pretty logical situations. So not much there.
I will say the Lions only had 8 third downs in this game. Like they were just ahead of the sticks so much and they were moving the ball with such efficiency that they just didn't get into these situations, which is good to see. So 3 for 8 on 3rd down is not great, but what can you do? So aside from that, I think that's all we have for this game, right?
We did all the ref talk stuff, so
Yeah.
it came up over the course of the narrative. The one thing I want to say as we close out this game, the Lions are third in total offense in yards per game right now, 378.7 per game. In scoring, they are number one at 30.3. DVOA, I know they're right near the top as well. It's just so funny the narrative around this offense, given everything
Yeah,
that we've
and
said.
It it's really funny because I think we're almost just too spoiled as a fan base at this point where we've
Yeah,
had the number one offense that is so efficient and so dominant that there's nothing wrong with it and it's perfect in all assets and or in all aspects. And then this year we have whenever they're good, we don't say anything, and whenever they're bad, we freak out and
exactly. Yep.
and flip the tables. And I know the pass protection is a thing, but I mean the Lions are still humming and there's a lot of teams that would die to be in the Lions' shoes with that. So, obviously, still need to fix whatever the offensive coordinator situation is in the offseason because Dan Campbell can't call plays long term. But for the rest of this year, got to just trust it.
Yeah, I think that's the offense is not the issue right now.
Yeah. So now getting into some of the other scores around the league because the playoff pictures in both conferences are just a complete mess right now. I think we'll start with the AFC and get into the NFC later. And I kind of just want to get to this right away. The Chiefs' downfall is upon us. The Houston Texans, who, by the way, their defense looks unbelievable as of late, beat the Chiefs 20 to 10. Mahomes has like one of his worst statistical games in a while. 14 of 33, 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, only 160 yards. The Chiefs are below 500. They're gonna miss the playoffs.
I read on EPA per dropback it was his worst game of his NFL career. Not sure if that was true or not, but I saw that stat. Um, yeah, I also saw some numbers regarding the Texans and that their defense might be one of the best like of all time
Oh
this
my Lord.
season. I mean, obviously 208 points against in 13 games. Yeah, do the math. Doing pretty well this season. And the Chiefs, they're in big trouble. If they win out, they will be 10-7. Right now, there's a
I don't
division
think
winner
that
that
gets them.
the AFC North isn't relevant to them. You have the Jags at 9-4, Chargers 9-4, Bills 9-4, Texans 8-5, and they don't have the tiebreaker with the Texans. So the math is starting to look pretty grim. I mean, basically, the Chiefs need to win out and then get a lot of help. And the easiest path was the Chargers crumbling down the stretch, and that took a big hit last night when the Chargers survived the Eagles. And if the Chargers were to beat the Chiefs this coming week, that's it right there, basically. So backs against the wall for the Chiefs. The remaining schedule is manageable. If Chargers, Titans, Broncos, Raiders, the Broncos are at home, Chargers are at home. It's very doable. but at this point, they don't control their own destiny. And if things play out the way they could, then it might be over. Because here's the other issue: Chiefs are 3-5 in conference. That's the tiebreaker if you don't have the head-to-head. Chargers are 7-2. Bills are 6-3. Texans are 7-2 in conference. So
Well,
they're
the
not
Bills
going to have
also
a
have the
tiebreaker.
tiebreaker over the
Oh,
Chiefs
that's
anyways because
true.
they
Right,
beat
as
them.
do the
So,
Texans. I mean,
and the Jaguars, if they were to
basically,
fall
if
out of favor too.
basically the Chargers just need to win one game, more than likely, and that's it. Uh, Now they have a hard schedule too, but there's a scenario where the Broncos might have wrapped up everything and rest their starters in Week 18. That could be the path for the Chargers. So we'll see what happens. I Herbert is he's
Oh,
being slammed around in that pocket, and credit to him, he's hanging in there. He gutted it out for that win against the Eagles. I think the Chargers probably have one more win in them, but they look like a wounded group, just you know, limping along. The Eagles, another team with some bad vibes.
ooh, we'll talk about them in a second. I just want lastly on the Chiefs, I will say so the scenario for them being eliminated this week is if the Chargers beat them and the Texans beat the Cardinals, which are two possible outcomes. I do think the Chiefs will beat the Chargers, but the math is not considering basically everyone they're competing with has the Jaguars, if they don't win the division, they have the tiebreaker on the Chiefs. The Texans have the tiebreak, the Bills have the tiebreak, the Chargers have the tiebreaker. Like the math is incredibly hard for the Chiefs. So I think for once we're actually going the AFC is going to remain as wide open as possible. Because if the Chiefs had made the playoffs, I think all of us would have just defaulted to the Chiefs are going to pull off the BS and make the Super Bowl again. But that's not going to be possible if they're not there. So go AFC,
really
I
makes
guess.
really makes you wonder whether the Chiefs should have fired Andy Reid and kept Ben Johnson. But I don't know. Their offense doesn't look the same without Ben Johnson.
Uh, that's I
Speaking
going
of
on.
Ben Johnson, do you want to talk
Yeah,
about the Bears game? And he
yeah.
got a little cute on the fourth down to win the game.
Hey, and people are asking, was Ben Johnson really trying in this game, or was he looking too far ahead to his next head coaching gig and he got too cute? That's Yeah, so the Packers help the Lions out, which is a sentence I hate saying, but the Packers beat the Bears at home. They catapult themselves to the 2 seed in the NFC North. The Bears go from the 1 seed to the 7 in the span of 3 hours, which is hilarious. That's just how tight the NFC is this year. On the final drive specifically, the Bears have all the time in the world, and they purposely drain the clock, run the ball down to like 30 seconds, and then they get in a fourth down. And on fourth down, with the game on the line, you run a play action with only two routes going? What was the thought process?
Not sure. I mean, I we've seen that this is like the classic Ben Johnson experience, right? In terms of just like his tendency to get too cute, and it ends up costing him in some situations. And this is this is a classic one where I think it was DJ Moore that Caleb had underneath potentially. He decides to throw that tough route to the back of the end zone. You think you've got it, and you just don't put enough on the ball, and it's too short and too flat, and the DB picks it off. Um, just unfortunate for the Bears fans, but Lions wanted this result. This was we needed some Bears losses after the Eagles didn't deliver the previous week, and it felt weird cheering for the Packers, but they gutted it out, and now the Lions really would like one more loss from the Bears because
They need one more.
that allows you to stomach a loss to LA potentially, and then still have a win and in scenario in Week 18. But it does look like that's what we're headed towards.
Yeah, the Lions need to win two of their next three against the Rams, Steelers, and Vikings. You feel good about the Steelers game. The Vikings you should feel good about, but I don't really trust it.
You didn't win the previous one, but Lord Almighty, you have to win.
So if the Lions win two of three, you just need the Bears to lose one of the next three against the Browns, Packers, and Niners. And let's be honest, that means they have to lose one of the Packers and Niners. So if the Bears lose one and the Lions win two, which we expect them to, week 18, which will probably be on Sunday Night Football, is going to be for all the marbles. And that would mean that the Lions have three of the last four Sunday Night Football games in week 18, which would be hilarious because the Lions always seem to end up with all the drama at the end of the season. But hey, I'm here for it, and the Lions are familiar with that environment, and I would welcome a matchup against the Bears for all the marbles. If that, if you can't beat the Bears to get in the playoffs, you don't deserve it. So. Like for
Right.
as good as the Bears have been this season, they are not world beaters and they have a bad defense. Opportunistic, but bad. By the way, Jordan Love had one of the worst interceptions I've seen in a while in this game where he just decided to throw it right to the linebacker. And I'm like, what? Now, generally, he's been good in Toyotathon because that's what Packers QBs do. But man, Jordan Love continues to be weird. Shout out to Christian Watson, though, who has been a godsend for the Packers offense. He has like completely saved them, and they actually look like a fairly well-oiled machine since he's been back.
Yeah, I saw the tweet about like it's not Jordan Love doesn't throw many interceptions, but the ones he does are always the worst interception you've ever seen.
Yep. Yep. So,
Pretty much. So yeah, the Packers are now in the driver's seat. They would be potentially the team that the Lions would be playing in a playoff game right now. They would be the two, or they are the two at the moment if we assume NFC West victor is going to be the one seed. So yeah, there's just there's a world where you go on the road and win in Soldier and in Lambeau and the entire season's saved. We'll just put that out there.
well, if the Lions do that, I don't care how badly the Rams beat us in the divisional round at that point. Just the satisfaction that we would have from eliminating both the Bears and the Packers in their like on their turf, that would be just as good as making the NFC Championship game a few years ago, honestly. Like that would be beating the Packers in a playoff game would be like the most satisfying outcome ever, especially considering how both games this year went. But we have to wait to see if we get those outcomes. Now, we have to talk about this. This is another AFC thing because this is the funniest, dumbest thing that I've seen this year. So the Jacksonville Jaguars beat the Indianapolis Colts to take the lead in the AFC South. And Daniel Jones tears his Achilles, which unfortunate for Daniel Jones, he was having a bounce back season for his career, salvaging his career after a disaster with the Giants, and he looked to assert himself as the Colts starter for a long time. Tears his Achilles, super unfortunate for him. So the Colts respond by bringing in 44-year-old Philip Rivers, who is now signed to the practice squad. He has not played since COVID. Um, what on earth? This is desperation unhinged.
I don't even know what to say. This is just bizarre. Um, I, the only good thing to say here is the tweet today about the like. Imagine telling a Colts fan that a former quarterback is unretiring and it's not Andrew Luck.
Um,
You
yeah.
just you can't imagine this is going to go well. Especially it's just this season's going south and
Oh yeah.
it's falling apart, and I don't think a lot can be done about it. I don't think a 44-year-old quarterback who hasn't played in 5 years and wasn't that great the last time he played, like it wasn't like an MVP the last time we saw him, is going to fix that.
At this point, just run Jonathan Taylor Wildcat every single play and hope for the best because that's honestly your only hope. Um, the New York Jets were cooking apparently with that Sauce Gardner trade because
Yeah,
that's going to net them a top 15 pick with the Colts who are going to miss the playoffs at this point because let's be honest, they're not winning more than a game or two down the stretch here, and that's not going to get them in. So the Jets are going to get like a top 15 pick. They obviously have their own pick, which is going to be top maybe five, although there's so many teams at the bottom of the league this year that they might kind of get screwed, even though they only have 3 wins. But the Jets might have just saved their, if they hit the picks, obviously that's the hard part, but they've got the picks with this trade to do something of note for once ever.
yeah. I mean, I someone was saying like, could this be NFL version of the Paul George trade? And I'm like, yeah. The difference is that the team getting the picks in the Paul George trade was the smartest team in the league, and the teams getting the picks in this example is the dumbest team in the league.
Uh,
So
yeah, well. Regardless, speaking of the Jets, they lose. The Dolphins, by the way, we had some harsh comments about the Dolphins earlier in the season, and now they're 6-7. They have the same record as the Chiefs. Who would have thought that through 14 weeks? Go
I
Dolphins, I guess.
Mike McDaniel will not be our offensive coordinator next year, I guess.
Such a shame. I do also want to shout out the tank bowl between the Titans and Browns, where Shador Sanders, uh, between Deshaun Watson's contract and Shador Sanders looking not bad, are the Browns going to really pass on a QB this year?
I can't imagine they will, but it would be funny if they did.
So that's incredible. The Steelers beat the Ravens to stay atop of the AFC North. The Bills beat the Bengals in a snow game. That was a great
Yep.
game. I loved the football weather there. And Joe Burrow looked really good,
Humorous,
except
humorous
for two
moments in this
plays.
game.
Oh, Joe Burrow was so good, except for the two plays that cost the Bengals the game. A hilarious pick six with like 5 minutes to go, and then an interception the next play after that. That's the Bengals for you. That is the
Yep.
Bengals. The Broncos are now the one seed in the AFC after beating the Raiders. Hilarious statement. The Rams thrashed the Cardinals, and I'm very scared of them. We'll talk about them in a second. And then the Seahawks thrashed the Falcons. The Seahawks have become the last year's Lions, where they just destroy any team that's not anywhere close to good. Like they have been
I still don't know if I'm sold on the Seahawks as a playoff team, but what they've done this
as a
regular season
as a
is
playoff
really.
team, I'm sold on them. But
Well, I
like
mean,
in
yeah,
terms,
they're going to be a
yeah,
playoff team. I mean, like, can they win
oh yeah,
playoff games? Just with the Sam Darnold thing and the things we saw last year, that's sort of
see
right, the sort of Damocles like hanging over them.
the second game against the Rams is going to be so telling because that's going to be for the NFC West title and probably for the one seed. The Seahawks defense, unbelievable,
It's
so
really
good.
good. Yeah.
Their offense, well, Jackson Smith and Jigba's good. He's real good. Everyone
I
else, I have
I will
questions.
have my money on the Rams. That's all I'm saying in that matchup. The Seahawks have to prove it. Like the Rams, we know what the Rams are. The Rams can do it.
Yeah. And speaking of the Rams, Lions heading to LA. This this matchup has kind of become like a pseudo rivalry in recent years just because of how many times they've played each other and when they've played. They played in the playoffs, the Lions beat them. They played in the opening game last year. Obviously, there's the history with Matt Stafford and Jared Goff and the trade that kickstarted this Lions rebuild and that catapulted the Rams into a Super Bowl. And now they are back in contention. The Rams are the best team in football right now. They have no weaknesses, and I'm scared. I don't know what else to say. The Rams are fantastic in every phase of the game. Matt Stafford is maybe the MVP this year. Devontae Adams turning back the clock. He's going to lead the league in touchdowns. Puka Nacua is one of the best receivers in football. Kyron Williams and Blake Corum. Blake Corum, by the way, was broken out to kind of make this a tandem backfield, and they've been one of the best tandems in the league. And that defense, Jared Verse, Kobe Turner, they Emmanuel Forbes, who's randomly a super good corner now. The Rams are loaded, and I don't know how the Lions are going to beat them.
I mean, the offense is going to have to be really good to keep up with this passing attack. I mean, Stafford 35 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, just
Oh,
remarkable. Blake Corum is running really well for them right now. I mean, we know what Kyron Williams can do, but Blake's been great as well. Two-headed monster there. Puka, Devontae Adams. I mean, this is a really good unit on the offensive side. So it's going to be on the Lions' offense to keep pace, and that's not going to be easy with those horses up front. It's going to have to be a great game from the offensive line in pass protection, especially. You kind of think they're going to have to go for it on fourth down a few times. Probably get a few fourth downs, maybe a trick play or two. Almost certainly they will need an interception or two. I mean, we saw the playbook when the Rams lost most recently against the Panthers. Stafford had a bad game and the Panthers capitalized. 2 interceptions from him was a huge story in that one, and we saw the Panthers be able to move the ball on the Rams
and on
defense in
fourth
that
down,
game, and on fourth down, like the Lions have been the better team in most of the games they've played. over the past few years, but we remember the Dan Campbell playbook of the early years of the tenure. We remember the game he played the last time the Rams won the Super Bowl in SoFi, with the ambush onside kick, the fake punt.
You can't do that anymore, unfortunately, but I would have loved
Yeah,
a surprise onside.
it's going to have to be more of that, I think. Um, and we'll see if they can pull it off. But it's at the very least with the Bears losing and the Lions beating the Cowboys, you don't have to win this game. But everything would change if you did. If nothing else, this is going to be a measuring stick to really see where you're at.
Yeah. Yep. This is it's similar to the Eagles game, even though the Eagles kind of are bad now, but the Eagles defense at least in terms for the Lions offense, just seeing where they stack up against a really good defense. This is going to be a telltale sign. If the Lions are competitive in this game, they can do anything because I just need proof that they could beat the Rams in a playoff game again. I'm not optimistic for winning this one. However, like every week, any given Sunday, anything can happen. So the Lions absolutely are capable. They're talented enough to beat this team, but the Rams are just so good that it's more so a respect to LA more so than a slight on the Lions. Yeah, gonna have to get a turnover or two. I would bet money. I'd bet the mortgage on a fake punt in this game because it seems too obvious, but that means it's probably not going to work because it's so obvious. But a Jack Fox, I'm telling you, the Jack Fox pass to Sione Vaki on the angle route, it's gonna hit. It's
Yeah,
going to
no
hit.
more of the fake punt with the up back. Like, let's get the
Stop
Fox
giving Grant
punt back.
Stewart the ball. How
Yeah.
about that? No more Grant Stewart touches the rest of the season, please. Let Fox, the best quarterback in the league, throw the ball. Um, this is yeah, this is gonna be a great game, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes. It's in the late afternoon window, 4:25 start. Is it this America's Game of the Week on?
Yep, I think it is. It has to be.
Yeah, I mean, what else would it be? So that's gonna be fascinating. Aside from that, I think that's it. Anything else you
Yep.
want to say before we wrap?
No, I mean just hoping
Just
hoping
win.
they can at least battle, right? And if you get a win, it really does change everything. But we'll see what happens, I guess.
Yep. So we'll be back early next week to recap this game and preview Lions and Steelers. So if you made it this far, be sure to hit like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. Follow and leave us a review if you're on a podcasting platform. You can follow the show at Payne and Drain on Twitter. You can find me at ZachPayne41, Alex at Alex_Drain, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care, everyone. Cheers.